From CRI Simple Numbers, this is Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast, a podcast for those championing market growth and anchoring the nation's economy, small businesses, and entrepreneurs.
Hey there. Welcome to another episode of the Simple Numbers Profitability Playbook Podcast. I'm Mike Maxon. That's Brandon Gray. We're here with a special guest, Kyle Ewing, CEO and founder of TerraSlate. Kyle, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on the show, guys.
For those of you who don't know, he's in Hawaii right now, and it's bright and early. So now we and Brandon were laughing before because we'd much rather be 4:30 a.m. in Hawaii than 9:30 Alabama. Though we love the tide, roll tide, but I'll take Hawaii at 4:30. But anyways, Kyle, we appreciate you joining us, man. Long time no talk, which is probably like a few weeks for me and you, but we'll kick you off here. We throw some real heaters on this program, so I hope you're ready. But why don't you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about TerraSlate and what you all do?
Yeah, TerraSlate is a pretty cool company. We're in a super niche market. We manufacture and print durable paper substrates. So what that means is basically waterproof paper, and it's used in everything from the play charts for the NFL teams to the price tag that Whole Foods and as well as lots of military applications. And the one civilian application that's very easy to relate to, everybody that's listening to this podcast that eats out at a restaurant, at any point you have held this material a bunch of times. We print about 250,000 restaurant menus a month, and those go all over the world.
Sweet. That's pretty awesome. And by the way, what's cool, Brandon, I know you probably never saw this, but on his website, you can go and he literally throws that menu in like a high pressured washer, and it just sprays the hell out of that stuff, and it perfectly dry. and I mean, Kyle, it's like, it's not laminate, right? It's not, you've completely eliminated that component, right?
Yeah, spot on. It's totally different than lamination. Unlike lamination, which is basically plastic, TerraSlate is just one piece of material. And what's cool about that is it's fully recyclable. Lamination, you got to throw it away, can't be recycled. TerraSlate's fully recyclable. And what you can do is you put it in any laser printer or copy machine, you click print, and when that sheet comes out, the sheet and the ink is waterproof. You don't have to use special inks or toners. You just put it in the machine, click print, out it comes, and you're done.
That's friggin' neat. That's really neat. That's awesome. We so awesome, man. So hey, I know we're going to talk about TerraSlate is great, and we'll probably hit on that a little bit. But we want to talk about you, and I know you got a lot of things going on. That's really great, and I think definitely worth sharing. But if you could just give a brief background of your entrepreneurial journey to where you're at right now, and then we'll pipe in with some questions about the future going forward.
Sure thing. I started out of grad school as a management consultant, which was a great gig. Great pay, learned a lot of cool things, got to work on some really fun projects with smart people. But ultimately, I realized I don't want to be a consultant. So I started a business on the side. And this was a business that made ID systems for athletes. So a civilian version of a dog tag, if there's anybody from the Army on this podcast.
Yeah, I had a few of those.
You did wear around your neck as a bracelet, or you would lace it into your shoes. And this product had your name, emergency contact, and medical info. That way, if you bumped your head or you got injured, the first responders could figure out who you are, who to call, and how to treat you. That business started to grow a little bit as a side hustle, and the forcing event was that the company I worked for, this consulting firm, decided to roll up all their satellite offices. I was in the Denver office. They wanted to roll them up all into their office outside of Chicago. And I decided, well, I really liked the people I was working with, and I liked the company. I didn't want to move to Chicago. My wife had recently passed the bar exam in Colorado, and then she would have to retake it in Illinois. And neither one of us wanted to do that. So
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was sitting here thinking, I don't want to do that. I'm not even a lawyer.
well, exactly. And they sold it as Chicago, but it was Libertyville, which is 45 minutes north, and man, it's cold there.
Oh
So
yeah.
that was a hard pass. And my personal Independence Day was 9/9 or September 9. That was the day I left that company to become an entrepreneur. And everybody I worked with thought I was going to be a consultant going out on my own. But what I told them is like, I got this products business. I think it's going to work. I'm passionate about it. And they said, okay, yeah, do it, and call us when you're hungry and you need to pay rent. And I literally several times that was happening. But the company became successful, and then ultimately I exited from that company. It was a really good event for me and for my family. So we were thankful for that. The interesting thing to me about entrepreneurship is that your identity becomes tied to the business that you run. And so it's
Yeah.
incredibly painful to leave a business because all of a sudden you're not the king of the world in any arena anymore. Nobody needs you. You have no deadline and you literally don't have anything to do. So, we spent 2 weeks on the beach and I thought I will find myself after 6 months and I got all this time. But truly after 7 or 8 days, I was talking to my wife and I was like, babe, my brain is literally rotting. She's like, it's not. And I was like, but it is. For real, babe. It's rotting as we speak. And she was like, okay, well, it's not. You're fine. But what happened is I needed something to work on and build and do because I think that's what happens when you're a born entrepreneur is you have to use that energy towards something. You got to build something. You got to have something to grow. You need a deadline. So I started TerraSlate. And I thought originally that the idea was passports should be made out of waterproof paper. So if you get it wet, doesn't matter. Well, short story of that is we sold like 2 a week. And I made about $100 total. So that wasn't much of a business because my initial run of material was 100,000 sheets, and I hadn't even sold a box yet. But then we pivoted and we got into some field engineering, some oil and gas exploration. We got into some military stuff, and then restaurants and hospitality. And that pivot is ultimately what took us from $0 or $20 in sales to where we are now.
That's awesome. One more thing, just I got to touch on this one because I got some of this from you, but you also started Big Island Honey Company, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks. Absolutely. I've always had this passion for Hawaii, and I wanted to become part of the fabric of Hawaii, not just a haole, which means somebody from the mainland that moves to Hawaii. And while I'll never be Hawaiian, I want to be Hawaiian friendly. And so I got involved with this company, and we make this ultra high end honey. It's horrendously expensive. It's like $160 a jar, but it's almost always sold out. So it's a pretty cool product. It's white of all things. It's like a spread, like butter versus just straight yellow honey. And it's been a pretty fun adventure already.
It was different. It was delicious, but it was different. Like I remember getting it and then opening it up. I'm like, did this like something happen to this and the shipment, initially? And then it was great. It was pretty cool. Well, awesome. So, we talk a lot of business stuff on here, and we're obviously in interesting economic times and things like that. But what so far, especially in scaling your business, has been your biggest challenge that you've had to face and overcome?
I think a challenge that every single company, no matter how big or small, every entrepreneur faces is cash flow. And what I learned in a failed business is that if you can get paid ahead of time, if they can prepay the product or prepay the service, you're never going to run out of cash. So at TerraSlate, when I started the company, I set it up so that at the time, 100% of orders had to be prepaid. Now you can pay with a check, credit card, Bitcoin, Ethereum. We don't care, but you got to pay before we ship anything. We don't print anything. We don't design anything. Nothing goes in a box till it's prepaid, and we just maintain that. And what I love about that is that when we buy our raw materials, we buy them on terms, then we make the stuff, turn around and ship it, but we get paid by the customer before the box leaves the door, meaning we always have a positive delta between when we have the money and when we have to pay it out. And what that means is you never have a cash flow issue. You can always make payroll. You can always pay vendors. You can always pay vendors on time. And cash is just never a problem.
Well, love the, what we would refer to as the trade capital signature there. As we throw that out, we talk with entrepreneurs about that quite frequently and give that as an example of, prepayments or deposits. And a lot of times they kind of want to push back and go, well, in my industry, yada, yada, yada. So kind of give a little more insight, Kyle, into kind of how you guys would approach that with the prospective customer and kind of get them to buy into that's just how we work.
I'm glad you said that, Brandon, because that is exactly what some customers will say is that we only buy on terms. And I just took a hard stance from the beginning that we don't do that. I hear you that you guys aren't able to. If anything changes or when you're ready, give me a call. Because the truth is, when I was a tiny company, I mean, we had an Amex and a Visa. We could buy $100 or $10,000 worth of whatever pretty quickly on a credit card. So I just didn't believe that companies literally couldn't do it. Now they may not want to do it because it's right for their own cash flow. But the truth is, if they want the product, they can do it. Now we do about 95% of our customers are prepay. And the 5% that don't, we put them through the ringer to make sure that we're never chasing people for money. We, in 11 years, literally just 2 weeks ago, we had our 11-year anniversary. We have had one piece of bad debt for $216. And it's because the restaurant literally went out of business. And that is the only debt we haven't collected in 11 years is $216. And I literally wrote it down 3.5 weeks ago. Nicest guy in the world, but business went under. And that's great, right? Because we don't have to be the bank. Our trade capital number on my call every month with Mike looks good because we get paid in advance. So I think when a customer says we don't do that, if you hold strong, 85% for sure will do it. And typically the other 10% will too, if you have a great product that they're not able to buy somewhere else.
And I like that you've done it from the beginning too, because we have the conversation with a lot of entrepreneurs where you want them to get there. And it's part of that like graduating process as a business with a lot of them. You tell them like, look, it's your product, it's your service. If this is the way you want it done, you got to do it. You got to be potentially willing to, maybe lose business over it, but trust that in the end, this is the right way to do it. And I like that you did it from the beginning, but a lot out there will get to that point, right? Because this, when you start, like a lot of times you just take any business you can get, perform it. Ask Brandon when we a long time ago, like Mike would just be over there saying, yeah, we can do anything.
You wrote checks, I had to go cash. That was fun.
I come in there, I'd be like, Brandon, what's
you
that?
You gotta have a return policy. People gotta be able to get a refund. If you prepay, they gotta be able to get their money out if they're not happy. So you gotta be willing to like fire that refund off or off from a credit or all of the things. Give them every option, because if they have to prepay, they're taking a risk, and you got to make them feel confident that, like, if you take a risk and you're not happy, we've still got your back.
That's good. Yeah. Excellent. Awesome. One of the things, that, we've talked about a lot, and I love to get different entrepreneurs' perspectives on this, is the people side of the business. Right. I mean, I talked to this guy the other day. He had run and exited a bunch of businesses. Older guy. He's a broker now. Super smart guy. But he goes, you know what? I wanted my last business. I wanted to be a job with no employees, no, all this stuff, like basically nothing. And he somehow gets money for it, which meant him, and that's it. But what about how you've approached your company from a culture, hiring, people standpoint, because I know that's uber important to you. It's one thing I've really respected about you and how you care for your team and employees as you've grown your business. Just give a rundown of how you've approached that and what you believe and how you try to keep it alive at Terrace Slate.
We do so many things to positively affect our culture at Terrace Lake. I don't know where to start, but here's what I'll say is that if you don't actively work on your culture, and if it's not a focus of the leadership team, you have culture by default. And that is the worst type of culture because it is very susceptible to any one employee being upset and then ruining the culture for everybody. And what you've done is you've said, okay, we're not going to have a voice in our culture, which means anybody else can dictate the culture, good and bad. And now if you get lucky, good for you. That's pretty rare because typically one person gets upset and then their voice becomes the loudest. And now that sets the tone for the culture of everywhere. And if one person puts poop on the floor, everybody has to smell it, right? I mean, like that's terrible for everybody. So you have to be really intentional with your culture and you got to live it every day. What I think people get wrong about culture is that it's not like a fluffy science. It's actual intentional things. So for instance, every week we have awards that we give out at our town hall meeting. One is for production, like who kicked ass on the production team. One is for graphic design, one is for sales team, and one's for the proof team. Those are our like 4 core areas of the business, and we award those every week. We also allow anybody else to shout out anybody else at the company at that town hall, and people get a lot of value out of that. On the tactical side, if you need something that's just a hard science, one thing that's made a big difference to our employees is we bought every single person $100,000 life insurance policy, and any business owner can do this. So you don't have to be good at culture to do this, and it can have a meaningful impact literally in one day. Call your broker. They love to sell you insurance. And this makes a difference to people because what you're saying is that, hey, Mike, you're worth $100,000 to me. Dead or alive, that's how much we care about you. And if anything ever happens to you, I want to make sure the people around you are immediately taken care of in a financial way. And we do that for every single person in the company, from me all the way to the brand new person who just started in the entry level position, and they get it right away. And I think that's important because it shows how much we care with money. Like we are going to back your life with $100,000 today. And there's something about that makes people feel the value that we feel for them on our side. And that's what you're trying to communicate with culture is like, you are incredibly valuable to this organization and to us as people. And here's one easy thing we can do to show you that.
That's cool. Brandon, you ever hear that one before?
Not exactly like that. Sometimes folks will have the cafeteria plans and what have you, but I think that's a much stronger approach whenever you, like I said, you're intentional about it. And not just an option that they can go and check or, the worst is whenever somebody offers those types of benefits, but they never even say anything about it. I'm like,
yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. That's like the employee doesn't even know like the value the company actually cares about them with, and like, hey, here's what we are doing for you. Yeah. That's cool. Hey, one thing, Kyle, I wanted to talk about was, and you're in a spot in business where it's pretty cool. I got a couple clients I work with like this that are getting into this level, but you're sort of moving in a different direction in your role in the business, right? We talk a lot. I asked Gad Allen, the Wharton professor, about this on our podcast a few weeks ago. But you're looking at doing some different things. I want you to elaborate on a little further in a second. But and by the way, really, Kyle, I wanted to get my man Ryan a shout out in here. But you've began to, as you've grown this, where you've done so much, and you're. I mean, since I met you, I mean, the main sales guy, you were the man, right? And so, you brought Ryan in, and who's done first of all, that dude was there like 1 week, and I felt like he knew everything about the company in like 3 days, which is impressive. But tell us about, you're delegating away from being the main source of it, because that is a pain point for entrepreneurs where they just don't want to let go. And it's like, hey, you got to hire the right people, give them the responsibility, and let them go with it. Just explain your role in that, because it's been cool to watch. So sort of the dynamic with you and Ryan.
Yeah, 100%. And thank you for the shout out to Ryan. He has been an incredible add to the company. I love working with him every day. He's the kind of guy I could walk into his office and just shoot the breeze for the entire afternoon if we had time. So
Yeah.
huge shout out to Ryan, and thank you for that. He means the world to me. Here's the mistake that I made for way too long in my own business, is that we didn't have a true leadership team. We didn't have a lot of managers. I kind of just managed everybody. And that works really well because I could be everywhere up to a certain point and I could see all the things. And it meant that was one less person I had to go find and hire and train. And management is incredibly hard to find or to teach. And so I had tried a couple times, got snake bitten, and then decided like I'll just do this. I'll just be everything to everybody. And when the problem is bigger than me, I'll just work harder and I'll find a way to work smarter. But the truth is, what that did is it absolutely guaranteed that I was the bottleneck in my own company. Mm-hmm. The company can only grow to the size that I can manage the entire thing. And while it looks good on your monthly call with your CFO because your management and labor efficiency ratio it looks great because you don't have any like leadership team or managers beyond the absolute necessary, it's not the right way to run a business because the business cannot grow. And hiring somebody in Ryan's position was a really difficult hire for us because we're in an industry that we pioneered, which means nobody comes into this industry with background. Nobody has experience. Mm-hmm. There's no guy or girl that knows all the vendors and knows the customer or that knows the process because we literally invented it. So I'm operating as a deficit. We're doing something new, and that makes it incredibly hard because I can't just filter by the people who have relevant experience on their resume. So I tried 3 or 4 people, and none of them were ultimately successful. I tried hiring them myself. I also spent a lot of money on recruiters and ultimately got to the same place, which is they are great people, but they're not leaders that are capable in the way that somebody like Ryan is. And the way I found Ryan was literally my best hiring story ever. I was here in Maui, which is where I am today. I literally moved here yesterday. I got here last night and it's 4:30 a.m. So like, here we are, Maui. But what I'll tell you is the magic of Maui is real because I posted on the Entrepreneurs Organization or the EO Slack channel. And I said, hey, I'm looking to hire a chief operating officer. If you have somebody send them my way. Here's the job description and the pay. And a friend of mine from EO, this guy's name's Boris, was like, hey, Kyle, I know the guy. I'll put you in touch. And so I'm out on a catamaran with my family. We're out on the water, and I get this message, and it's from Ryan. And I sent him a video, and I was like, hey, Ryan, it's Kyle. I'm on the catamaran right now. Boris says you're the guy for the job. I'd love to get in contact. Love to work together. Let's set up a time. And I'm sure I'm butchering the details on that because I was literally out on the water having a ton of fun with everybody, watching like whales and everything go by. So and what's cool is Ryan sent me a video back. And I was like, wow, okay, this is a guy I can work with. And I'm wearing a tank top and a baseball hat. I don't have my little entrepreneur uniform, which if you already know is a pair of nice shoes, but really you're wearing jeans and then a blazer. Like if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's your uniform. Like do a video, right? That's what I'm going to call somebody wearing. But I'm like, I got my tank top on, which I had to put on, because I wasn't wearing a shirt before that. So anyway, Ryan and I connected, and he jumped into the business, and right away we developed a level of trust between us where I could tell him what I needed to tell him, and he would be willing to A, help me think through that, or B, take it and run with it, and C, bring things to my attention. Hey, Kyle, heads up on this. And so we developed this working relationship, which I find incredibly valuable because we have this level of trust, and because I can kick things to him and say, "Hey, what do you think of this?" Knowing that it's a half baked idea. I've only just come up with it, and maybe it's a bad idea, but what's important is we don't get attached to the idea
Mhm.
right away because it may or may not be good. Right now, if I'm over attached or he's over attached to this idea, and then we realize it doesn't work, everybody's feelings get hurt or somebody's feelings get hurt when we don't put it into place. But if here I bring an idea, it sounds great, but then we find the hole and it doesn't hold water anymore. Okay, cool. He understands right away that like that's okay and there's no ownership of your idea. And just that alone is worth everything in the world, much less everything else that he brings to the table.
Yeah. Yeah. That, and, I said it like always for me, it was always my thing. I could tell instantly. And even in our office, our employees, we got a great staff here, but people that when they're been there like a short amount of time, but you feel like they've been there like 6 months and you're like, man, you've been there here forever. And they're like, oh, I've been here a few weeks. And you're like, oh, wait, but they know everything because that means they go in and embrace it. And I'm telling anyone who's listening, when that dude showed up, I mean, because I've been working with Kyle for a while now and went, every month talking to him. And when that dude showed up, it was like he knew everything. I mean, it was amazing, absolutely amazing. So it's pretty cool for him. So tell us, Kyle, now what you're doing because see, you're just told everyone you're in Hawaii and you just moved there, but the company's in Denver. What we do? What are we doing here?
Yeah, so we are not a remote company. So I will be the only true remote employee. My own peril, no doubt, right? So I'm one
Yeah.
day in, but really, like what I've done is I've spent the last 9 months working really closely with Ryan to hand over the day-to-day operations of the business because I'm not physically going to be there. Like I'm not going to be able to walk through the production room and immediately see, okay, we've got an issue over here, or
Mhm.
handle the customer that we need to escalate their issue within the leadership team too. And so my role, it's painful for me because I've spent 11 years in this CEO role where I'm really active in the operations. I'm really involved in the day to day. And unlike a lot of entrepreneurs, I don't shout from my office the order and then expect somebody else to go deliver on it. I'm the first one to walk down the hall or down the stairs or whatever it is and go do it myself, make sure that process or system works, and then teach someone how to do it. And so it's a piece of fear for me. I don't know how this will work, and basically my role has changed from CEO to chairman. Now if you want to know my thought on chairman, that sounds like an old man job, so I'm not sure I'm not quite mentally there yet, but my role is chairman. And the reason that that's important is that a Ryan and the leadership team are entirely capable. They're incredible people. I'm always here, but I'm also working on some other things. I own the Big Island Honey Company, an investment firm called JT&R Capital, and then I own a minority share in a company called Sustainability Partners out of Arizona. And so my time ends up getting split between all of these entities. And so I can't be 110% focused in on the day-to-day operations of any single one of them if I want them all to be successful. I've tried to outwork the problem in the past. That's what we just talked about, where I try to be all things to everybody, but I'm immediately the bottleneck. So I'm working on being a conductor instead of a doer. And it's a challenge, no doubt. It's a new role for me, but I'm excited to jump into it.
I like what you said to me one time was when you're out doing that though, good things seem to happen for TerraSlate. When you're out there meeting people, engaging, whether it's through different organizations or other companies. I believe you said it always generates in a positive direction for TerraSlate.
That's 100% correct. When I work on all of the companies, or when I work on a special project, it has a cumulative effect of helping each business individually. And TerraSlate is the one that I'm the most focused on a day-to-day basis. But when I do things outside of the business grows. Here's a great example that just happened last Thursday. I went to the TED conference back in April, and this is the original TED, not a 10X. It's in Vancouver. There's a lot of super cool people there. Well, I meet a guy and he's like, "Hey, I'm working on this philanthropic effort. I heard you do some of that work. Would you be interested in a new project?" I said, "Absolutely." And he said, "Okay, sounds good. I'll put a call together." Well, I had a call Thursday, and it's with this guy, Jimmy Donaldson. And I realized a little bit before the call, I don't know if we can swear on this podcast, but it baited me out here. I said, "Holy shit, that's Jimmy Donaldson, Mr. Beast." And so for those that don't know, Mr. Beast is the biggest YouTuber ever, and he literally made himself a billionaire out of this. And so we're putting together this project that I'm super excited about now. And it's a project that has to do with water, and we make waterproof paper, so it's aligned nicely. But basically, the gist is $1 can provide clean drinking water for one person for 1 year. And Jimmy's wants to figure out how to raise $40 million in 30 days to raise money for this project. And getting to work with him on this is A, incredibly cool, B, is good for my own network, right? And C, if I ever need something from Mr. Beast, he's there. And he's got my back, and he's got my company's back. And now he may tell people about my business and what we do and how we've helped him in his mission. And that generates sales for TerraSlate.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Brandon, you got anything for Kyle before we close it up?
Yeah. So, one piece of advice you would give to a fellow entrepreneur?
Oh man, 1,000 pieces of advice. But here's where I'd start. As part of my chairman role, I just wrote a book on time hacking, and the gist is this: my wife and both my parents are attorneys, which is why I'm allowed to say this. And the problem with being an attorney, all attorney jokes aside, is that they trade time for money.
Right.
They have a billable rate. Now they can increase their billable rate and they can hire more attorneys, but it's really hard to scale a law firm. It can take 40 and 50 years. And it's still not scalable in the same way a typical products or services business can scale. That's the mistake. What an entrepreneur's got to do is figure out how to leverage your time. So we all get the same number of hours, and you cannot save time. It cannot be saved. It's not possible. But what you can do is spend less time on things and be more effective with that time. One of the ways is hiring. Some of the other ways that I always point to are: find a tool that makes your job easier. Find a way to teach somebody. Use something like Asana to track projects. Use something like SparkMail to assign out your email boxes. Use a VA from the Philippines or a virtual assistant to help you with your email. Use loom.co, because what you can do is record any process that you do on the computer. It'll take a little video of you and it'll screen record, and you just narrate what you're doing. Well, guess what? Now you have a repository of every single thing you do on the computer that anybody could watch, and then anybody can do your job. And then the last one I'll say is Trainual. Document every single thing in your business from the start. I didn't do this until year 8. And oh my gosh, it's hard to start from zero when you're 8 years in to document every process. Had I done that from the start, the business would be twice the size it is today. And that's what I do in every business. Is if we have a process, no matter how simple, I document it, I put it in Trainual. And now if everybody follows that process, we will do a good job. And if they follow the process and something bad happens, that means we need to adjust the process.
Right.
And that's super easy. What you don't want is everybody in your company having to reinvent the wheel in their job every single day, because you will get no consistency, nobody will be happy, and your customers won't come back. So leverage your time. That's my number one piece of advice.
Awesome. Well, man, we really appreciate it. Thanks for getting up early with us. Yeah, man, you threw some lot nuggets out there.
Yeah.
Much better than me and Brandon.
To Hawaii.
Yeah, but much better than me and Brandon the whole time. So we gotta, we don't want people's ears to bleed. Well, awesome. Well, hey, thanks for being on, and to everybody listening. Stay tuned for our next episode. We drop these weekly. So many thanks to Kyle, and we will catch you next week.
If you want to know more about driving sustainable profitability for your business, or are interested in learning more about CRI Simple Numbers, please visit our website at simplenumberscri.com. Thanks for listening to this episode of Profitability Playbook, the Simple Numbers Podcast. You can subscribe to Profitability Playbook on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. If you like what you heard today, please leave us a review. This podcast is brought to you by CRI Simple Numbers LLC, a division of CRI Capital Group LLC, and a subsidiary of CRI Advisors LLC. CRI is the trusted brand under which Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC, the CPA firm, and CRI Advisors LLC, along with its subsidiaries, deliver professional services. Please note, Carr, Riggs & Ingram LLC is a licensed independent CPA firm offering attest services, whereas CRI Advisors LLC and its subsidiaries specialize in providing tax and business consulting services. These entities operate within an alternative practice structure as defined by the AICPA Code of Professional Conduct and comply fully with applicable laws, regulations, and professional standards. Ready to simplify your business finances and drive growth? Explore valuable resources, books, and tools designed for entrepreneurs and small businesses at simplenumberscri.com.